In this second part of the homework video, we're going to have a look at the extended written method, the most efficient written method that we use at Bradshaw Hall for division. And I'm going to make a comparison to the method we use when we're dividing by one-digit numbers. So if, first of all, we have a look at 855 divided by 6, of course, I would lay the question out in this manner, and I'd be saying to myself, first of all, how many 6s in 8? Of course, there's 1, and then the remainder is 2. Now, we'll have a look at the comparison between how those remainders are carried. And then, of course, I'd say how many 6s in 25? There are 4, and the remainder is 1. And then how many 6s in 15? 2, and the remainder is 3. So, of course, my answer, 142 and 3/6, which I know is a half, or 0.5, 142.5. Well, the layout with a two-digit number is the same. I'm saying 24s in 8,550, and of course I'll not go how many 24s in 8, that'll never be possible, so I'll be saying how many 24s in 85. Just to help me, I've written out my 24 times table, and let's have a go. So, I know that there are 3 24s in 85, so I'll put my 3 up there. I couldn't fit 4 in because 96 is too many, so I've got to subtract 72 from that 85. That leaves me with 13. Notice here the remainders are going underneath, whereas here they were in this position. It would just be too messy here when there's a two-digit remainder. Of course, 24s and 13 there aren't any. I need to pull down the next digit. How many in 135? Well, I can check my chart, and here we go. There must be 5. That is 120. So if I subtract there, I've got leaving me with 15. Of course, then I need to pull down the 0. How many 24s in 150? I can see there must be 6. And that still leaves me with 6. Now, we've come to the end of the number, but then we've still got this remainder of 6. So either we can present the answer here as a fraction and say it's 356 and 6 over 24, which of course we can cancel down to a quarter, or we can bring down further zeros to make it into a decimal. There's 2 24s in 60, and that leaves 12. If I bring down another 0, then I can see that there's 5 24s in 120, so that gives me a no remainder, and my answer, 356.25, which of course is the same as 356 and 6/24. Now, your task's to have a go at one of these 3 calculations. We're only going to ask you to do one. You can choose the level of difficulty. The getting secure question is the top one, the aiming higher question is the middle one, the shooting for the stars question, the bottom one. We'll go through all 3 afterwards. You only need to complete one. Pause the video and have a go. So for the first one, I'd say how many 16s in 13? Well, of course, there are none, so I'd now be asking myself how many 16s in 132? After a bit of calculating, hopefully you worked out that there were 8, and that is 128, because 8 16s are 128. That leaves a difference between 132 and 128, which is 4. And I'll pull down this 8. And so now I'm asking myself, how many 16s in 48? Well, there are actually exactly 3. If I take off 48, that leaves me with no remainder, so my answer, 83. Again, for my second example, I'd say how many 16s in 13? None. So then my next question, how many 16s in 133? After a bit of calculating, you'll work out that 8 16s are 128. So now I just need to work out the difference between 133 and 128. Of course, it's 5. And then, to be able to perform the next part of the calculation, just pull down that 6. Next question, how many 16s in 56? Of course, 16 3s are 48. I couldn't get more than that, so that's 3. I've got to take away the 48. However, that still leaves me with that remainder. I've still got 8 left. You might recognise the answer here as 83 and 8 over 16, which of course is 83.5. Or you might have worked as a decimal, put another 0 in, brought that down to make 80. How many 16s in 80? Of course, there are 5, giving you 83.5. And the shooting for the stars question, 3,820 divided by 16. How many 16s in 38? Of course, there are 2. That's 32 to take away. That's leaving 6. I'm then saying, how many 16s in 62? There are 3, because 16 times 3 is 48, and that leaves you with 14. Then I need to pull down the 0 there. How many 16s in 140? There are 8, because that's 128, leaving 12. Now, I might recognise that I can present as a decimal at this point, 238 and 12/16, which cancels down to 238 and 3/4. I can calculate as a decimal, of course, by pulling down another 0 and saying how many 16s in 120. There are 7, and that's 112. Leaving 8, and of course I just need to pull down another 0 and saying how many 16s in 80, and of course there are 5. 238.75. Well done, that's the end of the video, and we will look forward to seeing you back in class.